Gonna have so much fun with this thumbnail for this video as well. I'm gonna £210 Chris just here on the left to the right. Today's guest is an author, speaker, entrepreneur, and as I have tried to explain to my girlfriend, the Lionel Messi of marketing, as a football preference. Gracefully showing the back door in 2019, got told to go be an entrepreneur. He did exactly that and generated $500,000 in his first year before going on to build Refine Labs into the #1 B2B demand gen agency out there, which I've learned a lot from. He exited that last year and now turned all of that towards something much bigger in his new venture, Encoded, and the book, which I'm personally really excited to explore, The Frequency Era. So, Chris Walker, thank you very much for joining.
Sam, great to be here. I'm honored for the Lionel Messi comparison. I stumbled upon, I don't watch football that much, but I stumbled upon one of his videos and he's just insane. So appreciate that and excited to dive in.
Yeah, very good. And you got the World Cup coming up as well. I'm sure that'll lift your spirits. So, Chris, the way I could articulate it is if social media was a wave on a beach, the frequency era is kind of like a tsunami where it's all going to pull back out and it's kind of resetting. And the reason I say that is I went to 2 events last week. The majority of people were there. They were marketing events, were stressed, and all of them were stressed, actually. I think everyone that I spoke to, and they were all there to network because they were trying to hedge their bets. They were going to lose their job, which is totally understandable. What's going on, in your opinion, in terms of not in marketing as a whole, but this is obviously bigger than marketing. Where's that tension coming from?
For sure. Yeah. So first, let's just start with some of the signs, right? So you pointed out to it. You can see it on a micro level, right? People feel stressed. A lot of people think that it's a personal problem, that they're just need to learn something new or something like that. You can see it in companies, right? There's a ton of companies doing 15 or 20% layoffs, especially larger organizations right now. And if history sort of informs the future, it's large companies right now doing 15 or 20% layoffs. 6 months later, it's going to be the mid-sized companies that are doing 15 or 20% layoffs. And then 6 months after that, it's going to be smaller SMBs doing 15 or 20% layoffs. That was almost the exact pattern that happened during the COVID slowdown in tech. Public markets, large, mid-market, private market, and then SMBs. And it was like a cascading effect because the big companies pay the mid-sized companies who pay the SMBs, right? So it's almost like a cascading effect in the economy. So when you see it in the public markets, likely it's going to move downstream. So we have businesses having less people in their companies overall. We have what many frame as a global mental health crisis. I think it's more than 20% of people that live in the United States are on some type of psychiatric numbing medication, right? 75% of the global workforce reports intermittent stress and burnout. The entry-level job market, young adults have followed the path that was carved out for them, doing exactly what they were, quote unquote, supposed to do: get good grades, go to college, take on student loan debt, graduate, and then you'll get an entry-level job and climb the corporate ladder. And the entry-level job market's the worst it's ever been in the past 40 years. And so we're seeing all these different economic signs in the economy. And what's happened is that no one's really seemed to put together a cohesive understanding about what's actually going on. So it seems like it's just a problem in this industry of somebody that needs to learn more. So it's all these sporadic things. But when you put it all together, what's happening is that over the past 20 years, knowledge has become less scarce than it used to be. And when things become less scarce, they also become less valuable. And so first, the internet allowed people to get information more easily. Then social media was able to propagate information from person to person a lot more easily. And now AI has made it totally undeniable that it's not that what you know isn't valuable anymore. It's just that other people can also figure it out too. It's no longer as scarce, and therefore it doesn't command the economic premium that it once did. And so when that supply and demand curve shifts, right, there's way more supply of knowledge, and the demand needed for knowledge is not going up as fast. So the premium on it is coming down, which means less Entry level jobs. What's the easiest job to automate with AI? Entry level knowledge work jobs. And people have it, people see that, right? If I'm explaining this to you, you see there are less entry level jobs happening in the market. A mid level manager is now doing the work with AI instead of having a 4-person team. That's already occurring. You don't need all these big hierarchies. You don't need to aggregate all these people for knowledge like you used to because of the capabilities of artificial intelligence. And so at the most fundamental level, the basically everyone listening to this podcast has grown up in the rules of the economy and society that what I know and how I process it is equivalent to my value as a human being in the economy. And when that knowledge becomes less scarce, it's no longer the most valuable thing in the economy. And so we're seeing the decline of knowledge work. It's happened in economic history before with all the people that used to work in farms, and then farms got automated, all the people that used to work in factories, and then factories got automated. And now the same thing, all the people that worked in an office on a computer, that work is being automated. And every time in modern history, what happens is that it's not that everybody loses their job and the economy gets completely destroyed and it destroys humanity. What happens is that the value moves. The value is moving from the information that you store in your brain and how you process it, which is easily automated by AI and done way better than will be done way better than a human with AI. And it's moving to the capabilities that you express through your nervous system. So it's moving from your mind to your nervous system, just like it moved from your muscles to your mind.
Mhm.
And so there's an elevation of human capability going on here that I'm super excited for. Once you're able to see the patterns in history, this stops feeling like chaos. It stops feeling so stressful, and it starts feeling like, whoa, I know how to navigate this. I actually have a massive advantage, right? Everybody else is stressed, right? I'm personally not stressed at all by this time. I think it's the greatest opportunity of all of our lifetimes, right? And so to realize that the stress that you're feeling is based on your level of uncertainty and lack of understanding of what's actually happening. The actual situation is not stressful. It's just how you're reading the situation that makes you feel stressed.
Yeah. And we'll get to that as well, because also I felt like a psychopath. I'll feel really bad because I was kind of like smiling all the way through that when you were mentioning job losses. Obviously, that's terrible, but also having read the book, it kind of gave me a sense of control back, where it's like I kind of get it now, and we'll talk about that more with the future section.
And it's not like when you look at the patterns, it's not terrible, right? So when like in 1960, 65% of the people that worked in the economy worked in a factory. They were tough economic conditions. It was very tiring and required a bunch of endurance. They made less money overall. And then when people started getting laid off from factories, they started working in an office. They made more money. It was higher overall value to the economy. It was less physically demanding. It was the loss of the job elevated humanity. And so I don't think that people are obviously during the process, for people that don't understand it, it feels chaotic, it feels like turmoil, but the outcome actually is a much greater society for everybody, more opportunity for more people, better conditions. So I think that being able to see that creates a different perspective of what's going on.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And on that, then you mentioned the fact, and I like the way you phrase it in the book, where you've gone from the agriculture industry to the factory to the knowledge to the frequency era. Where are we, do you think, and how long is a piece of string, right? Are we in 1975? Are we in 1990? Where, like, when did this start? And like, how far along are we in, or like the end?
So the patterns of these transitions in history have happened. The transition from the agricultural era to the industrial era took about 30 to 40 years. And so in that between period, you have some people that are moving into a new economy and you have a lot of people that are lagging behind, right? In the agricultural era, it required producing machines, distributing machines. And then if you needed to make a new machine, you'd have to go back to the manufacturing facility, design it, get all the parts and put it back out. So the cycle of the transition took much longer. In the industrial era, it took about 30 years from 1965 when they started implementing industrial automation until 1995 when it was obvious that we are now in the knowledge economy. And during that transition, people lived in both. The expectation here is that the transition is going to be from 2022 until around 2035, when we're in the middle of this transition. AI propagates significantly faster. It doesn't require sure, we need to build data centers and things like that. But once there's an AI update, it propagates to everybody. It doesn't need to be manufactured and distributed. So the speed of the transition will be significantly faster. I think a lot of people are feeling that.
Hmm.
But the patterns of the transition are almost exactly the same. So what people are seeing right now is the same thing that we saw in 1967 with factory workers, which is that most people are responding to this transition with AI thinking, I just need to become a better knowledge worker. I need to become the best at using AI and work the hardest and learn the most, which is equivalent to the factory worker in 1967 saying, I just need to be the best at using these machines. I need to come in early, work the hardest, learn how to use the machines. And so we're in that transition right now. Even someone commented on my LinkedIn post today. It's like all that's happening is that people are just going from being a knowledge worker to a better knowledge worker. And
Mm.
it's like, yeah, maybe 3 years into this 15-year transition, but imagine where we're going to be in 5 or 7 years, right? This is accelerating. It's not slowing down, right? So people are reading the transition. It happens every time. In the early stage of the transition, the response is to just become the best person fighting in a declining economy, which is what being the best knowledge worker right now is. You're extending the runway. And sure, today, 8% of people that participate in the economy still work in a factory,
Mm.
right? It used to be 65%. Now it's 8%, right? So it's not to say that there won't be any knowledge workers. It's to say that the economy is declining in knowledge work. And think about a factory worker right now. Sure, they do something valuable for the economy, but they are certainly not the most valuable people in the economy. It's just the
Mhm.
way it is. And the same thing will happen with knowledge work today.
Well, on that one then, because I was on a run with my friend and we were talking about it, and his parallel he drew was like oil paintings when photography came out. Obviously, he wasn't around then, but everyone was worried oil paintings wouldn't exist, and oil paintings still do exist, but it's a much smaller niche, so to speak. So, what within the knowledge worker, what would be the art? Is that too much of an abstract question? But it's like who holds on to those knowledge worker jobs? Is it the most intelligent?
I'm not sure if this is a relevant question. And so the way that I look at it is like in the knowledge era, right? Creativity wasn't that valuable. I'm sorry to say it, but if you look at every single think about every tech company from 2000 to 2020, right? Almost none of them were actually creative. They ran a standard playbook following best practices. Conditions didn't change that much. There was really maybe inside of like the product, right? They were developing quote unquote more innovative products, but in terms of organizational design, how they operated, their marketing and sales strategies, it was incredibly not innovative. So creativity, aka like paving your own way and coming up with new ideas, was not valued in the knowledge era. What was valued is following best practices from Gartner and McKinsey and whatever you heard on the internet. And so when knowledge is scarce, the most important thing is to just find whatever knowledge that you can, aka best practices, insights from people on LinkedIn and things like that. When knowledge is abundant, and you have all this information, the advantage inverts, and it becomes, now I need to be actually creative. I need to pave my own path. I have to come up with new ideas. I have to think for myself. And so what's happening is that it's not that it's like the oil painting analogy. It's to me, I don't really see it that way. I see that the most valuable things in the economy are things that were just simply not valued before. And because they weren't valued at that level, they haven't been developed. They've been underexpressed. So in 1970, the factory never measured the IQ of a factory worker. The factory worker did indeed have an IQ. They all could have expressed the capacity to do knowledge work in an office at a higher level. They all had the capacity to do it. However, the economy hadn't needed it yet. So those capacities were never driven to be developed and therefore they weren't expressed, right? And so the point of the book is that all of us, every single human, has all of these capacities to be creative, to pave our own way, to come up with new ideas, to be adaptable. And the fact is that just the economy has actually suppressed all of those capabilities. They haven't been needed to be developed, so nobody has developed them. And back in the past, it's been viewed as a personality trait that you either are creative or you aren't, right?
Mm,
You either are a visionary leader or you're just unlucky to be born without that trait. But the reality is that these are not personality traits. They are capacities, just like an IQ, that we can all develop and express. And so what's going to happen is that the economy is going to force people to develop all of these latent superpowers, incredible capacities in the future that I think is amazing. So that's the way that I look at it. It hasn't been valued yet, and therefore they haven't been developed and expressed.
makes a lot of sense. The on back to the you being optimistic for the future. I am more optimistic having read your book now about the future as well, as I've said. And I
Wonderful.
think disclaimer, well, not a disclaimer, but like me, I want to personally vouch for it because I feel like UK people. Well, a DJ once said, "You drive a Lamborghini in LA and people cheer for you. You drive a Lamborghini in London and someone keys it, right?" And I think at the events and stuff, it would probably be easy to be like, "Oh, it's nice for Chris Walker to say this. He's done this, he's been there." And I think you touch upon this in the book that the transition from the agriculture era to the factory era, and then vice versa. The into the factory was like capital intensive and agriculture was capital intensive, but now it's kind of a level playing field. And I just kind of want to preempt like this next section with two words, which is like what if. Like what if the future you're kind of paving out is correct? Because I truly believe like it could be something special. But
Yeah,
into
let's go through it.
the future section, and I know
Can
you
I
said,
jump on one thing?
yeah.
So it's like for all the people that are at the conference and stressed out, right? You're a middle manager, you're a director, people in your company are, getting laid off, or you can see the job shrinking and you're concerned about the future, right? And you're looking at me and you're like, easy for you to say, Chris, like you just sold your company, you got plenty of money, easy for you to sit up here and say how optimistic you are with the future. And what I'd like to say to that is in 2015, right? 2016, 10 years ago, I weighed 210 pounds. I was out of shape. I couldn't get a date. Like I couldn't get a date. I made $95,000 a year. I drank alcohol all the time. I was miserable and I basically was just the average human. Okay. I had all of this latent potential and none of it was expressed. And so what I'm saying to everybody is that no matter where you are in your life, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter your fitness level, it doesn't matter your job title, it doesn't matter how much money you currently make, you have all of this incredible latent potential that hasn't been expressed. And so instead of looking at me and saying, whoa, like, come on, dude, like you're up there and like I'm down here, take a look in the mirror and look at all of the amazing things that are inside of you that haven't been expressed yet, and then go out and make it happen. And so like that's the response, because a majority of people that are in my seat were in your seat 5, 7, 10, 20 years ago. And so it's possible for you too. And the one of the major steps is getting out of the victim mentality, saying those people are lucky and I'm not, because it's not true.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I think the way you said it in the book or on the podcast was like, hey, race, gender, pay, all of that had kind of, separated us before. But here it's very much the barrier to entry is so low. If you want to put in the work, you can all do it, which is good. Also, and I know you don't like trying to convince people like this is the way, but if I can kind of get that old dog marketer out of you again one last time, how would you convince someone that this is the best opportunity to, as you said, to kind of like the opportunity of a lifetime or a generation right now to kind of jump upon and navigate without kind of like a framework?
Number one, the signs are already there. For 10 years, people have called it emotional intelligence as this X factor, right? It's really not emotional intelligence. It's the power of your nervous system. And then emotional intelligence is one thing that gets expressed. Adaptability is another. Creativity is another. Stronger leadership is another. Getting more getting more power and creativity out of your team is another. Being more autonomous and adaptable and innovative is another. It all roots within your nervous system. All the signs are already there. The research is very clear. People that have more nervous system power measured in heart rate variability, cortisol, resting heart rate, they have better athletic performance, sharper cognitive performance, more creativity, better decision making. All of those things are already proven. It's been proven for a decade. So that's number one, is that clearly the things that are most valuable, that drive the most economic impact and ironically the most life satisfaction, all come from your nervous system. Number two is I would pose to a question, how is your current strategy working for you right now? How's it been going so far to follow the script that people have laid out for you that hasn't changed since 1990? Go to college, climb the corporate ladder, work hard, learn as much as you can, and you'll be able to live a good life. The reality is that that plan doesn't work anymore. And so to evaluate the strategy and say, look at the trajectory of your life, your satisfaction of it right now, and if you just kept following the plan that people laid out for you, where you would end up and say, am I satisfied with the current trajectory of my life?
Mm.
Or do I want more? And what a majority of people will find is that they are dissatisfied with the current trajectory of their life. They are dissatisfied with all of those different elements. And so one of the most major steps is just to recognize that. Because once you recognize, hey, that isn't, then you're open to other solutions. And so for that one as well, and then to think about that, what are the qualities of the people that you want to, you admire,
Mm.
right? Mental resilience, adaptability, leadership, autonomy, ability to connect with others, to be innovative, to be creative, right? That actually, those are the qualities. It's not about who drives the Lamborghini and who doesn't. It's about who they are. It's about how great of a parent they are. It's about how great of a friend they are. It's about how they contribute to society. Like those are the things, how they give back to others. Those are the things that are actually impressive.
Mm.
It's not about how much power you have or what kind of car you drive. Sure, those things can coexist. You can drive a Porsche and be a great person. But the thing is that a lot of people that drive a Lamborghini are actually a really terrible person. And
Yeah.
they aren't a great parent. They aren't a great partner. They aren't a great friend. And so to recalibrate on what are the things that are actually impressive? What are the things that are actually the things that drive life satisfaction? And when you look at all of those things, it allows you to challenge where you are and where you're going. And the thing that I love most about this is that it's not just about making money, right? I think a lot of people realize today that money is one of 10 different categories of life satisfaction. And if you only focus on money and you give up your family, your friends, your health, you live in a place that you don't want to live, you suppress your creativity, you feel no purpose in the work that you're doing, and you make $1 million a year, you're actually not that satisfied. I know a ton of people that make $1 million a year that are fucking depressed. It's hard to see that when you make 100K a year and you're living paycheck to paycheck, but in a lot of ways, you are in a better spot than somebody that's trapped making $1 million a year that has sacrificed all these other parts of their life in order to get there. And so I like to recalibrate what actually drives life satisfaction. And there's so many other elements that we haven't been considering enough up to this point.
Would that, and I was going to leave this question to the end, but is that kind of like your mission with Encoded? Is it to kind of help people realize this just at like a fundamental level, like realize that there is more? Like what is the main aim?
The fundamental aim is to expand the potential and capacity of humanity. And before you can expand your potential or capacity, you actually have to create a level of freedom. And when people hear the word freedom, I even did it myself, you connect it with money, right? But actually it isn't that. Freedom starts inside of us, right? There's a bunch of people that have money and have no freedom over their time, right?
Yeah.
no freedom over their mental health, no freedom over who they spend time with, no freedom over what location they live in, right? There's a bunch of people that have to live in San Francisco because they feel like they have to be there in order to make the money, right? And so the first step in expanding our potential is actually creating a level of freedom. And that level of freedom actually is driven through our perception of our life,
Mm.
not usually the circumstances, right? I spend a lot of time in Costa Rica, and there are people there that would be considered impoverished here and have a level of freedom in how they show up and how they live their life that is a million times greater than somebody here making 100K a year. And so it's just it's a teaching moment because freedom is a perception, right? And when we feel like we're not enough and we don't have enough and we need to get more and we need to be more impressive and we just got 10 more thousand followers, then we would be cool enough. And when we're always seeking this level of external more, it suppresses our freedom. So we're taught that we're not enough and we need to achieve more.
Mm.
And it's just that's not actually true. And it suppresses our freedom, and therefore we do not express our potential because of it.
Sure. We're held to like external benchmarks as well, right? Always chasing.
We hold ourselves to external benchmarks. They aren't actually real.
I need to change my language. There we go. Need to do the
It's
core.
it's an internal perception, which is the thing that's real. It's shifting from everything out there to everything in here, and all meaningful change starts inside of us. Right. I remember when I was 210 pounds and barely worked out. Right. It wasn't like I got fit and then figured, "Oh, I guess I'm that now." Right. It's you shift inside of you. I'm going to change this. And then the results follow. And so people have been waiting for basically this external proof to prove to them that they're successful enough, right? Or to prove to them that they're attractive enough or cool enough or whatever, right? And it's actually like it starts inside of you, and then through that your behaviors change, how you show up changes, the decisions you make change, and then you happen to make more money, or just you're still the same person, you're just showing up calm, more cool, right? So it's a it's a shift in perception.
I'm going to have so much fun with this thumbnail for this video as well. I'm going to 210-pound Chris just here on the left to the right. Right, Chris, I am conscious of time and I appreciate, yeah, you're a busy man. I would be bad if I didn't, audiences predominantly marketers, talk
Mhm.
about what does marketing kind of look like on, or marketing or sales using, like applying this frequency principle and maybe use it as a sales use case. So you're at a conference, like what does it look like at an individual level? Because like, do the challenger frameworks, the relationship builder frameworks, like does any of it apply to like how salespeople and marketers should operate in the future? Should they be going off their gut principles? I know I'm just trying to tie the two together here.
Cool. So first, let's isolate the actual thing to recognize, because I think most people miss it. They're like, oh, we just need a better homepage, right? We just need a better strategy. We just need to hire a different consultant, right? They're all very, very surface level understandings of what the actual issue is. The actual issue is that the culture of the organization suppresses creativity, innovation, and autonomy. And no matter what, you could be the best marketer in the world, right? I view myself as a top marketer in the world, right? And there were plenty of companies that no matter what I did, I couldn't help, right? Because it wasn't a marketing problem. And so as a top marketer, to recognize what the actual issue is and to realize that the number one criteria that matters in when you select a company, if you even choose to select a company, you could just as easily work for yourself. But even if you're working for yourself and working as a consultant or something like that, eventually it comes to the point where you have to select a company or companies to work with. That the number one selection criteria in a company as a marketer is the culture of the organization. And the culture of the organization is driven by the capital stack and the leader. of the company. And so what happens is a majority of companies that are probably listening to this podcast are companies that raise venture capital and then subsequently private equity. You raise the capital, right? Then it becomes a 100% financially driven company that's measured in quarters, has ridiculous acceleration targets because of the financial returns, knowing that many companies will fail, right? And so when that happens, then you have pressure, urgency, and driven to transactional metrics. And so when that happens, there is no innovation. Nobody feels safe. There is no creativity. Try to do something creative in one of those companies. You'll be fired in 2 or 3 months. Try to do it, right? I did it for 5 years and eventually realized this is totally pointless, right? And and what happens is that those companies get driven to a totally average median norm, right? And all the potential inside of the companies gets suppressed, which is why we see a revolving door in marketing leadership, even in sales leadership in those types of companies. It has nothing to do with the talent of the people. It has to do with the culture of the company. And until we take a look in the mirror and admit that to ourselves, we'll just continue around this revolving door. Right. So as a marketer, what we must do is, one, master our craft, realize what is actually valuable today, connecting deeply with our audience. That drives product, it drives pricing, it drives messaging, it drives trust. Connecting deeply with our audience. I know, you go to a 1,000-person company that has 20, 40, 50-person marketing team. A majority of the marketers never talk to a customer, haven't had one conversation with their customer,
Yeah.
right? So master the craft, to develop the capacity within ourselves to think for ourselves, to make decisions for ourselves rather than looking for the answer from a PDF or Gartner or what we see on LinkedIn, to challenge it and say, what do we think is the right answer? To not look to AI to give us a plan, for us to come up with the plan, to think for ourselves, to be autonomous, meaning that if we recognize that the company is suppressing our ability to do a good job, then we leave and we say, I am super talented and super capable. This company is suppressing our capability and not doing the right things and not following the values that I believe in. I'm going to leave and I'll find a place that values the things that I'm doing. These are all things that are totally the opposite of what a majority of people and how they navigate their career right now. They deal with it. They get their creativity suppressed. They have Sunday scaries. They hate going to the Monday morning meeting and they stay there for 3 more years. Right.
Yeah.
So, and to realize that as this shift continues to happen, the 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 level of individual, the only right word is sovereignty,
Hmm.
individual, that the value shifts from the company to the individual, because there's going to be thousands of mediocre people that use AI to produce mediocre stuff, and the people that are super creative, that think for themselves, that lead in different ways will be at a massive premium, and you will be able to charge a massive premium, and everyone is going to want to work with you. And at that level, why would you work at that company for a salary? Right? You and I have both done it. It's like, then you go and work for yourself.
Mm.
You have hundreds of companies that are begging to work with you because of who you are and how you operate. And then you get to choose, these are the 3 companies that actually meet my values, are going to follow my strategy, and are going to have success.
Yeah.
And it totally flips the equation from us sitting in a meeting, listening to a bunch of bullshit from a company that we work for and get paid a salary, to us taking control and ownership of our life and recognizing how valuable the things that we bring to the table actually are. And so that's, I mean, that's how I view the state of marketing right now. I'm tired of hearing the conversations about people talking about, oh, we just need to be better at internal marketing. We just need to share with the company the things that we're doing, right? I've heard this garbage for 10 years, right? It's not an internal marketing issue. That is a band-aid. The real problem is the culture of the company. It doesn't matter how much internal marketing you do. People clap and cheer at the town hall meeting, next quarterly board meeting. It doesn't matter. It's not an internal marketing issue.
Yeah. This is awesome. Like, and I shouldn't. I don't mean to keep plugging the book because I don't want to oversell it, but like reading it it gave me my mojo back to some degree, because I felt the same thing where I'd fallen into this framework thing where I kind of was operating a socially normal way. Whereas when I started my career, I was throwing crap at the walls, the fridge at the wall, and just trying loads of different things. And I think I did write it down here actually. In the book, you said, I can feel what wants to be built before it exists and unfolding it with clarity. And now, like having since read it, it kind of makes the whole job more fun as well when you're kind of operating as an individual and kind of like from within first, as opposed to kind of how I couldn't work at a company, I don't think, being told what I can and can't post on LinkedIn, or this isn't this, like that would kind of constrain me. I don't know if that's
Totally true, right? And so why don't companies innovate, right? Why, when it's so obvious that the approach to marketing and sales is so not working at a fundamental level, and that they don't change anything, and they just buy another piece of technology and slap it on and think that sending more emails and using AI to send the emails is going to work, right? So why aren't we changing anything? It's because of fear of judgment. It's because of fear, right? And so when you think about that, right, I've heard the CMOs say this exact thing. You're right. Our stuff isn't working, right? I know how bad it's working. The data is very clear. But if I do what you're saying, I'm going to get fired. And so what is that? It's fear of judgment, right? And then repeat that to everyone in the company, right? Like, it's not just the CMO who's thinking that, it's the marketing manager, it's the sales enablement person, it's even the person working in product, right? So everybody is suppressing their creativity in order to save their job. And now with the pressure of AI and the ongoing growing financial requirements of this capital structure,
yeah.
and it's going to just keep getting worse and worse. And these companies are going to regress to a mean. And what's going to happen is that a majority of these companies will be at a significant disadvantage. And so, what used to be an advantage of raising $10 million dollars and being able to deploy that on all the engineers you needed to build product and buy McKinsey and best practices because the information was scarce. So, we were getting the best information to have the best strategy, and things didn't change that much. So, we could follow the best practices from 2010 and apply them in 2017. And it would work enough. And we had enough capital that we could burn all this money and we'd make it. That now it's not an advantage anymore,
Hmm.
right? People can build products with 2 engineers that used to require 30, right? People can you don't need to spend millions of dollars in advertising to reach your customer anymore. You can connect with them on social media organically, build deep relationships, word of mouth spreads. And so, and what matters is the creativity, thinking differently, those types of things that are being suppressed in companies. And so we'll see companies that do not raise capital and focus on these principles will have an increasing advantage,
Mm.
which is wild, right? Like, I feel bad for people that raise $15 million now. Like, I
They're,
truly do.
they're on the gravy train.
Well, it's just like in 2010, it's not like you needed to, but it created a massive advantage, right? And now what happens is that it doesn't drive enough advantage for the trade-offs of freedom, culture, and all the other things that come with it as a founder or shareholder. So it's just a wild time because just like in life, like you mentioned, right? It's like how is following the current playbook working for you, right? The same thing applies to business. It's like how has it been following what you're quote unquote supposed to do in business, whether it's raising money or doing all the stuff that people have told you to do. It's like when there's a huge ability in just thinking for yourself and challenging these ingrained assumptions around what we should do.
Yeah, I've got quite a love, and I don't take any sponsorship or have any affiliate to any ABM vendor as well, which I quite like. But it's like it these scalable personalization at scale platforms and stuff. It's kind of oxymoronic
What?
as personalization at scale. It's you've kind of given me more hope that maybe there will be like bigger sales teams in the future, but they operate more as kind of like lone individual wolves of free to kind of express themselves on behalf of said organization. I
If
don't
we
know.
have time, let's talk about sales for a second, right? Because like
I've got time. You got time?
we talked about some marketing. I'm good. We can go for
Yeah.
however long. This is great. The that inside of sales, there are two layers of relationships. There is the transactional layer, which is delivering information, staying top of mind, things like that. And then there is the deep layer of relationships, which is building trust, thinking long term. That someone selects working with you because of who you are, because they wouldn't work with anybody else. Right. Now, when you think about that, up until recently, especially in tech, but in a majority of industries, all salespeople have been driven to the transactional layer because it was all that was needed.
Hmm.
So staying top of mind, following a prescribed touch point sequence, sending 1,000 emails, delivering someone a PDF and a quote. Right now, all of that stuff can be automated with AI and done right now at least better than a human. Soon it will be 100 times better than a human, faster, better, cheaper, more objectively, right? More consistently, right? And so any salesperson that has built their career on that element of transactional relationship development is incredibly vulnerable to this technology shift, this economic shift. And then when we look at, okay, so what are the things that won't be automated? This level of trust building, building relationships, people choosing you because of who you are, right? Now think about the culture of any organization. They None of those things are supported, right? How can you think long term about doing this thing with this customer in 2 or 3 years from now when your company says you have to hit quota this quarter or you're going to get fired?
Yeah.
How can you actually act long term? You can't, right? How can you actually be objective when the all the metrics and all the incentives in the company are entirely transactional? It's directly in competition with building a real relationship. How do all successful relationships work anywhere other than business? Intimate relationships, friendships, everything like that. It's the opposite of transactional. It's the opposite of urgent. It's the opposite of needing to extract these different things. And so all of the culture in the company, just like marketing, many companies operate in a way that suppresses this level of deep relationship building and connection. And so all the companies that operate that way are also at a significant disadvantage because trust is going through the roof. And as we continue to reach more product parity, which is what we are, except even the frontier models are moving to product parity. But then when you go down, it's like software is going to be like a sneaker company. And it's like,
Yeah.
why do you choose one
Yeah.
sneaker over the other? They're basically at product parity. There's no major technological advantage. You choose it because you trust the company, right? And it's that will become a way more of an advantage than it has in the past that people do not appreciate right now. So yeah.
I'm seeing that personally, like, and I'll hold my hands up. I almost built like the first two businesses I built my career on spray and pray email. Like I was outsourcing emails, then I found Apollo, and then the Hallelujah 2019 to 2021, easy money.
Hmm.
But then like it started to break down, and then I didn't really know what to do. And it was kind of serendipitous. Like I've fallen into building ABM Answered, but now my like outreach rate, I think, is like 61 in two people off like it just feels more authentic. Like the slow way is the fast way. And every
Hmm.
time I think like, oh, I'm gonna hammer out a massive email chain because I want to promote this message, I just know the results aren't there anymore as well. So yeah,
And then it's like, we're like, because I went through the same thing 2019 to 2021, right? My business absolutely thrived. We, 20x revenue in 18 months, right? And basically every other company and the stocks and everything went up. So it was like, were the emails actually working that well? Were your ads really working that well? Or was just 0% interest rates and there was way too much liquidity in the system and everyone was just spending way more money than they should have?
good
And then
way
we
to put
paid
it.
for it from 2022 onward,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, even at that point, it was like the things that companies were, even though their revenue was growing and their valuation was growing because of the liquidity in the system, the things they were doing weren't in marketing weren't working.
Mm.
It was just more people were buying and more people had money. And the same thing goes for me. Mike, right? My company did that well, but it was sure I did some good marketing, and yes, our product was the best, and we had a great perspective. But at that level of growth, it was actually a lot more because of the liquidity in the market and how much overinflated valuations of tech companies flowed the money to us than our actual talent or strategy. And so I think the same thing goes for emails too. It's like it's not like the emails were working that well. It's just that everybody was trying to buy stuff at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shade to the AEs at Anthropic as well, but like the brand name's carrying you right now. Right. Okay. Sorry. We have everyone. I appreciate that you've done that. I've really enjoyed this. I have got a few quick fire questions if you don't mind.
Can't wait. Yeah, let's do it.
There are 12 capacities in the book, the frequency era rewards, so to speak, in your words. What do you think is the one that is most underdeveloped in kind of like by people, or like the biggest leverage
Emotional
opportunity?
sovereignty.
Say more.
Emotional sovereignty is the concept of taking full mastery and ownership over your emotions and not being governed by your emotions. And what many people at this point in society would view as impossible. They've been taught that they just need to figure out how to manage their stress. They just need to figure out how to manage their anxiety. They just need to suppress their frustration, right? And it's like, no, all those emotions are created through automatic neural pathways in your brain. And through that awareness, you can have total sovereignty over your emotions, which is not emotional suppression. You just have mastery over your emotions. And when you have mastery over your emotions, it creates the space for you to think clearly, for you to trust yourself, for you to act creatively, for you to be autonomous, for you to be adaptable. It is almost impossible to express all of the higher order, sexy capabilities like adaptability, autonomy, vision, creativity, if you do not have mastery over your emotions. And so, to me, I think that is by far the most underappreciated. I think a majority of people dramatically underestimate how much their psycho-emotional state holds them back from the potential that they have to express, whether it's in their relationships, work, life, creativity, health, or anywhere else.
I like that. Okay, cool. Next question. Building Encoded, what surprised you, and like what have you pushed back on, or like what's changed based on your original hypothesis to now like having launched?
I would say what's been most surprising is the level. It's not that surprising because I experienced the same thing at Refine Labs, but this one was more surprising to me because of how literally obvious this step in personal development and professional development is to me. But it's the social inertia pushing against this progress, and
Interesting.
so people instead of recognizing this shift and to me and many others it's like, yeah, this is the obvious thing that I should do. A lot of people are like, but like, I'm just going to cope with my emotions, right? I'm just going to get another self-help book. I'm just going to read this theory from someone from 1970. I'm just going to learn more about AI. And the inertia against it is from institutions, the media, corporations, the professional development industry, and a lot of these ingrained industries that are built on teaching you information. So corporate cultures are not incentivizing you to build the skills of the future. They're telling you to work harder, to learn AI, and to deliver results right now, right?
And
The universities are not telling you to build the skills of the future. They're doing what is most profitable for them and what they've been built to do, which is deliver more information, even though information is declining in premium and the value of a college degree is going down dramatically, and everybody knows it, right? But they are not they're lagging. So this inertia in the chain in moving to this shift has been like it's predictable, but it's been surprising to me how much inertia against what I see as an obvious step forward has been.
awesome. Great. Chris, I know you probably got to go. I will put a link to Encoded in the comments. But yes, thank you very much for joining me.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me. Great
Cheers.
to chat.